So here's a little something you don't know. You suck at your first function. Everybody does. Now, in particular, let's pick on the NIs. The NIs are so proud of themselves in the Myers-Briggs land, but it turns out in reality, when you look at a few hundred of them, they're really sucky with their pattern abilities. Why? Because you can't trust their patterns. They have this giant tumor on their head called NI, and it's not balanced with any SE. So the lead NIs, they are just suckers for conspiracy theories. For example, Martha in town got cancer, and there's an airplane that flies overhead every day. There must be chemtrails. Therefore, the airplane leaving the chemtrails creates cancer. Therefore, all airplanes create cancer, right? Like, boom, that fast. Is there any looking into the data? Is there any looking into the cancer numbers of the city and the population? What are they putting into the airplane fuel? Is there any actual sensory research on a extroverted spectrum, meaning getting other people involved, being objective, not just cherry picking whatever facts you want to find to support your pattern, right? No, of course they're not going to do any real SE research if bam, done, I see a pattern. So you'll see these amazing patterns. Maybe they're putting chemicals in the water supply to keep the population down. Maybe they're not. But you're not going to leave it up to an IJ to get to the bottom of it because they won't actually do the research, actually do the sensory numbers to find the actual facts, to verify whether that pattern is accurate or not. So what we're finding that a function is pretty worthless if it's not in balance. So if it's at the top, it's pretty worthless. If it's at the bottom, it's pretty worthless. Where we statistically see, let's just take NI for an example, and again, switch out any function here in this kind of math layout. Where a function becomes a little bit more useful without really trying is when it's in the middle. So we have seen that the ENTJs, ENFJs, ISFPs, and ISTPs generally are a little bit better with NI than an INFJ and an INTJ. The INTJ and the INFJ are going all out on their intuition, but they're just out on a limb. And so too many times they're making these giant leaps, these giant jumps with very little sensory down below. And the facts are they're wrong. Their patterns are inaccurate. They're in crazy land. They're in conspiracy land. They've left the planet. Now, sometimes they're right, but a lot of times they're not. The other types, ISFPs, ISTPs, ENTJs, etc., they're not taking as wild of a guess and as wild of a jump with their NI. Why? Because they're bolted to some degree to the sensory. They go, don't get that NI too far because I have my NI in a 60-40 balance with my SE, so I'm going to keep it in check, and therefore they can enjoy using NI and knowing the future and knowing the patterns a little bit more than the IJs can because they're not abusing the shit out of that function because it's not this giant overgrowth that's out of balance. And again, copy and paste this to all the other functions. Who is the worst out there about caring about people? Lead FEs, because they're desperate idiots that don't build any time into their identities. Who's the worst at making things work? Lead Ts, because they can't triangulate what is valuable that we should work on, and et cetera, it goes. Great functions you got. You now got to do the work to get those functions to work together so you can get that 60-40 balance so you can actually use the goddamn thing.